Welcome to the NC DWI Guy podcast, where defenders of the Constitution assemble to prepare for courtroom battle and firm owners gather to develop marketing strategies that will revolutionize the practice of criminal defense. Here's your host, the NC DWI Guy, Jake Minnick.
Hello, fellow freedom fighters, and welcome to episode 53 of the NC DWI Guy podcast. Today, we are talking about student mindset, how to elevate your DWI knowledge. I'm going to give you a practical list of resources to go visit to take your DWI knowledge to the next level. If we're not learning, we're not growing. It's from John Maxwell. If you're not learning, you're not growing. Today's episode is about growth. It's about getting better. We have to be students of our craft in order to improve what we do. We have to be focused in on improving every day, learning something every day to get better. Student mindset is one of our core values at Minnick Law. It's one of our 5 core values. I talked on episode 18 about the importance of having core values and what our core values are here at our office, but you need core values in order to take your firm from being an organization to an organism. You have to have core values. So whether you're a firm of 1 or a firm of 10, make sure that you have core values. And for us, one of our core values is student mindset. We focus on learning, we focus on education, we focus on getting better as a team. And so to that end, we have like our own internal listserv at the office that we use to throw DWI related questions off of one another. We have mock trial days. We do training sessions on DWI specific topics together. So those joint trainings, those mock trials, learning about specific issues is a constant focus for us to improve our student mindset. So when I first started practicing, I reached out to an attorney here in Asheville who is an amazing lawyer, Al Messer. He's had a really great criminal defense practice in the Asheville area for 2 decades or so. An incredible advocate for his clients, incredibly knowledgeable about criminal procedure and substantive DWI questions. Just an absolute great guy. And I reached out to him kind of a couple months after I started to practice DWI cases, and basically he didn't have any reason to know who I was, any reason to answer me, but I basically said, Mr. Messer, would you, kind of guide me in the right direction of where I should be kind of focusing my efforts? What should I be doing in order to kind of get better as a DWI practitioner? And Al sent me a list of resources to do that. And a couple of those we're going to talk about today, but it was really powerful in enabling me to be able to kind of have focus on where can I find the knowledge out there to improve my DWI practice. Just having that resource from him was incredibly powerful. So again, today's list of resources is not an exclusive list, but it should help guide young attorneys to some easy to find places. If you're looking to improve your DWI practice, I'm going to give you some practical places to find the knowledge that you're looking for. Some of them cost money, some of them are free, but this is going to be helpful in terms of trying to figure out the way to take your DWI knowledge, your DWI practice to the next level. So I'm going to give you these resources in no particular order. There's not really any specific design to how I've kind of laid this out, but here are 10 resources for a North Carolina focused DWI lawyer. So number one is the North Carolina Advocates for Justice listserv. Go to NCAJ.com and you will find the North Carolina Advocates for Justice website. If you become a member, so you gotta become a member. I think that membership is around $300 a year, if I'm not mistaken. If you become a member, then you can get access to the NC DWI listserv. And that listserv is incredibly powerful. It's incredibly powerful. If you did nothing but look at the questions and answers on that listserv for 5 years, then you would become an expert in DWI cases. The beauty of that listserv, the beauty of the questions that get asked on that listserv is they are very factually specific. So a lot of the resources I'm going to point you to today are very kind of classroom oriented. They are very kind of academic in terms of how they go through things, and they don't really kind of bring out the factually specific scenarios that are helpful to understanding the rules that lie behind the kind of legal analysis, right? So you gotta get to the rule a lot of times by working through the fact pattern. Well, on the NCAJ listserv website, you get the fact pattern all the time. Attorneys are asking clients about their specific, or attorneys are asking one another about a specific client situation. My client was stopped on I-40 for speeding, was asked to get out of the vehicle. Officer noticed an odor of alcohol and slurred speech. Client did good on the HGN, but not so great on the walk and turn and one leg stand. Already you can see this fact pattern is not very accurate, because I don't think I've ever seen an officer on an alcohol related case say that my client did well on HGN. But okay, we're just giving this as an example. So you get that meat of what is happening in a particular fact pattern, and then you get the best attorneys across the state answering the questions related to DWI specific issues. You get the best attorneys across the state. So don't waste that opportunity. Don't waste the ability to kind of tap into the leading heads of DWI in North Carolina. Also on the North Carolina Advocates for Justice website, so we're just going to keep this under number one, even though really we're focusing on the listserv. Also focusing on number one is on the North Carolina Advocates for Justice website. The North Carolina Advocates for Justice give great CLEs. So if you got to get CLE, if you want it on DWI specific, look at what's coming up on the North Carolina Advocates for Justice website. They typically do at least one, if not multiple programs a year specifically designed on CLE. They get great people to come in and teach these things. So look at the North Carolina Advocates for Justice website and be aware of upcoming CLEs. However, in their on-demand library, they also have past CLEs that are specific to DWI. So they probably have somewhere in the neighborhood of about 50 hours of CLE on demand that you can get, probably somewhere between like 8 and 10 courses that you can get on demand that are on DWI related subjects. So go to the on-demand library on the North Carolina Advocates for Justice website and use those on-demand seminars to advance your knowledge. If you need CLE credit, you can use that on-demand to meet your CLE credit. Doesn't have to be done necessarily at a live event anymore. So you can use some of those past webinars to build up your credit, and that way you're getting it specific to DWI if that's what you're trying to improve in. But 12 hours is 12 hours. I mean, we can only meet 12 hours pretty easily in a year. It's required, but don't stop there. I mean, these are the, again, top-notch people that are teaching these CLEs on how to practice DWI cases specific to North Carolina. Get on there and get involved in learning from the best in North Carolina. Go on to the on-demand library and tap into that information because it's there. It's ready for the taking. Get in there and take a look at it. So that's number one, the North Carolina Advocates for Justice listserv and website. Number two, I have, and this was one of the things that Al Messer recommended to me. I purchased it pretty much right away, is the David Teddy's North Carolina DWI Trial Notebook. I think I purchased originally the second edition. This now is the third edition. So this was recently revised or edited by Andy Banzoff, who is a DWI attorney here locally and DWI attorney from Durham area, Cole Williams. They have edited the trial notebook, and it is just an incredible resource. I mean, it's just got so much North Carolina specific meat and potatoes to DWI practice. It goes through the case law, the statutes, how to kind of organize your attack points. One of the things that I really particularly like about this new edition is that it is very practice oriented. So it's not to say that it wasn't before, but the second edition that I had originally bought was a little bit more of an academic book. It had all of the right information and case law and statutes and analysis. This is meant to be like a kind of quick reference guide. Basically you got an issue, it's going to give you the statute, the case law, but also maybe a motion or kind of some thoughts on how to cross-examination techniques, thought process in terms of how to actually read this particular issue that you have in your case. So it's a really helpful book. And I would say that if you had to kind of pick one resource that is North Carolina specific to DWI, this is it. This is the book to go to. Andy and Cole have done an incredible job building on what David Teddy has put together. And this really is exactly what it claims to be, the trial notebook for North Carolina DWI practitioners. So get a copy of that and use that in thinking through specific legal issues. I regularly just sit down and read this thing. This is something that you can use as a way of building your case, or if you are just kind of starting from scratch, just read through this. Basically, this is your textbook for DWI cases in North Carolina with the Supreme Court and Court of Appeals materials in there, cases in there to help you understand DWI. You can get this trial notebook on LexisNexis for $270. It is worth every penny. You're gonna reap out of that incredible knowledge, and it's something that you can keep, right? It's not just a one-time use. This is something that you can constantly refer back to. So that's really helpful. Another great resource is the North Carolina Office of Indigent Defense Services, so NCIDS.org. The Indigent Defense Services has tons of free materials on their website, tons of free materials on all things criminal to North Carolina, criminal practice and procedure related to North Carolina. They have a motions bank that references a lot of good items in there for DWI specific cases, but all types of criminal cases. So again, if you're practicing in other areas of criminal law, this is a great place if you have a specific question about a particular crime, about criminal procedure. The IDS website is great for that. But specific to impaired driving, they have their course materials on the website. So different trainings that have kind of been done through NCIDS or that they have access to, they have shared those online. So you can basically get their kind of resource, reference materials. These are like, manuals that are, 20, 30, 50 pages long on topics that have been taught about DWI specific. And they've organized the manuals that they have in their manuals bank by subject matter. So if you go to the resource manuals page on the ncids.org website, just search by subject matter. And if you go down to impaired driving, you will find all kinds of great stuff. There is just is going to just reference a few things. So you've got the Attacking the Science of Field Sobriety Tests by Doug Scott. You've got Blood Tests Since McNeely by Butch Jenkins. You have Defending Impaired Drivers from David Teddy. You have Defense of DWIs by Linda Klein. You've got DWI Hot Topics by Matthew Davenport. DWI Sentencing by Clark Dummett and James Philibin. Shay Denning's got resources on this website. You've got Hot Topics and DWI Cases by John Fanny. So this is something that is just, again, an incredible resource. Some of the great minds of DWI in North Carolina have their information on this website. Go in there and take advantage of it. Take advantage of this information. Don't just leave these free resources just sitting as a link forever on here, but take active advantage of this stuff. So number 3 is the North Carolina IDS website, and especially the impaired driving subject resource manuals. Number 4 is the UNC School of Government blog. Shay Denning has done a bunch of blog topics on DWI cases. So she has kind of gone through all issues DWI. I would say that in a lot of the analysis from Ms. Denning, there is a sway towards kind of being prosecution oriented in a lot of the blog articles. So just be aware of that fact. That doesn't mean that all of them have that kind of slant. But one of the reasons that's important is you might hear these blog articles mentioned by prosecutors or by a judge or by somebody in the courtroom. And it's good to be aware of what the prosecution is kind of reading through. I would say if there's one person that has kind of helped form the prosecutorial mind in North Carolina for prosecution of DWI cases, is probably Shay Denning. And again, she's not part of the prosecution. She's not really involved in any way in terms of advocating for DWI convictions. She's a professor at UNC, but she has really kind of digested a lot of the DWI related areas, a lot of analysis of individual cases that have come down from the Court of Appeals, the Supreme Court, changes in statutory language. And again, I don't want to say that there's too much slant on Ms. Denning's end in terms of how she's kind of worked through those issues, but it's just good to be aware of what the state might be frequently referencing. Shay Denning is also, through the UNC School of Government website, put out the Law of Impaired Driving. This UNC School of Government publication is $75. So, I mean, talk about being extremely reasonable in terms of how to get a hold of this. I mean, this is 300 pages of information about all things DWI. And again, it really kind of lays out in a good, if you want like DWI for dummies in North Carolina, that's what this is. I mean, it's really helpful in terms of just having a great overview of anything as it relates to DWI. It's very well explained. It comes across, in terms of being easily to digest. It's really user friendly in terms of understanding DWI related issues, sentencing in North Carolina. So take a look at that resource. I'd recommend purchasing a copy of that as a good reference manual. In terms of another good resource, and again, some of these things cost money, some of them are free. So we're up to UNC School of Government blog was number 4. We're now up to number 5. So this is resource number 5. take advantage of the student manual, right? I reference this all the time on the podcast. The NHTSA student manual is the Bible of DWI defense. It's the Bible of DWI defense. Get a copy of the student manual. Get a copy of the student manual. Don't let this, you got to be constantly reading this. This has got to be something that is really, in some sense, at the tip of your tongue if you want to become an expert of defending DWI cases. This is a free resource. So you can't say, well, I'd love to get a handle of that, but the cost. If you can print paper, it's a free resource. It's on the NHTSA website. So if you Google search NHTSA 2018, February 2018 participant manual, this student manual is on their website. You can print it out. It is free of charge. You can buy it from various places. I know that Anthony Palacios, who we're going to talk about here in just a minute, he sells them. I believe that Doug Scott still sells the manuals. So there's plenty of different places that you can purchase a manual from. The reason that it might be nice to purchase a manual is that if you purchase one from somebody that does a lot of printing of these things, they might have the tabs that kind of divide each session. And so that's kind of nice. But again, you can just print this out and put it in a binder. There's no reason to not have a copy of the student manual. It is the reference point for cross-examining officers, because you have to know what they're supposed to be doing in a DWI investigation in order to call them out on it when they don't do it. So in terms of the process and order for stopping a vehicle, for looking for personal contact clues, for doing the field sobriety tests, this is how you hold the state's feet to the fire, because this is their explanation of how they are supposed to be doing DWI related investigations. This is it. So you have to know that. And, print that out, print that manual out, and then take it to court with you and just sit in the courtroom between cases being called, right? We've got hundreds of hours of time, over a 5-year period in district court, hundreds of hours where we could be reading something, where we could be doing something in the courtroom while we wait for our case to get called. Don't sit there, looking at your phone, checking your email for the 10th time. Don't sit in the courtroom just, waiting, looking at the clock, acting annoyed. Sit in the courtroom and attend class. Attend class. It's your own class, but attend class. If you printed off that manual and you've taken it into the courtroom with you, you can go to school. Don't waste the opportunity to go to school, and it's free. The manual's free. Your time at that point is free because you got nothing else going on. Go to school. It is the best money you'll ever spend in your education, to spend, $6.25 printing off that manual. Best money you've ever invested in your DWI defense practice. So make sure you get that. Number 6, and I had just mentioned Anthony Palacios was on episode number 20 talking to us about horizontal gaze nystagmus, but his website, impaireddrivingspecialists.com, Anthony has some incredible resources for attorneys looking to take their game to the next level. So first of all, on Anthony's website, Anthony does trainings frequently on DWI related subjects. And he is a former DRE instructor, former SFST instructor. He was basically kind of presided over the Georgia State Police Academy for officers that were going through the student training. So this is somebody that has stopped individuals on the road, has conducted in real time DRE evaluations, and now concentrates on teaching this information, I'd say with a concentration towards teaching it to attorneys. And he delivers it in a extremely powerful and helpful, useful way. So if you haven't taken the student course, Anthony offers that like 3 or 4 times a year. I think the next one is coming up at the beginning of actually it might be this weekend here in April. But he's got the student courses regularly on his site. So if you go to impaireddrivingspecialist.com and go to trainings and seminars, you'll see his whole list of different trainings that he offers and the dates that he's doing it. He offers A-Ride training. He offers DRE, the overview of the DRE course in a 3-day training. And these are just incredibly powerful trainings if you're really trying to kind of take your DWI practice to the next level. If you have not taken the student course, you need to sign up for that. You have to sign up for that. If you are defending DWI cases and you have not taken the student course, that is a must. It's not a suggestion. It is a must. You need to take that course to take your practice to the next level. So make sure that you do that. Make sure that you push it to the next level. In terms of the other resources on Anthony's website, he has just recently, I think in December, started a DUI Expert on Demand webinar series that you can sign up for. So this is basically like a recurring subscription that you pay to have access to shorter trainings on different issues related to the standardized field sobriety test and drug impaired driving. He's got a podcast on there. So it's basically a members only exclusive ongoing training platform for your practice. So if you've already done the student course, if you've already kind of gone through the student manual, this would be a good option to kind of continually be educating yourself on DWI related subjects. His subscription fee, I think it's around $50. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember, but it's really reasonable. Again, in terms of just having access to this pool of resources, it's a really reasonable cost. So go on there and look at his DUI Expert on Demand training and get signed up because it's a really valuable resource. So Anthony was number 6 on the resources top 10 list. We've got number 7 now is Lawrence Taylor and Steve Oberman's Drunk Driving Defense. This is published by Wolters Kluwer. You can also buy it on Amazon. The list price, I believe, I'm holding up the 7th edition. The list price of the 8th edition, which is the newest edition, is $475. I think that you can also be loaned a copy for around $250 on Amazon. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I did see that as an option. So this is a little bit of all the resources that I'm going to reference. This may be the most costly outside of some of the DWI trainings that are multi-day trainings that can be a little bit more expensive. But this is a really powerful resource if you concentrate in DWI defense. This would not be the first book that I would purchase. I would purchase the Teddy's Trial Notebook and Shay Denning's Law of Impaired Driving. If you're practicing specific to North Carolina, those are going to be better reference points for you. But this takes drunk driving defense to a level of minutia that is so helpful when you're trying to prepare on very difficult to grasp legal issues related to, implied consent cases. This kind of goes into the depths, and it's beautiful because, again, it is very practitioner designed. It has sample cross-examination questions for officers. It has reference points to various parts of the manual, cases that are DWI specific cases, from a Supreme Court, and then also, many states, they have digested the cases that are on point related to these issues. So it is a really good reference book for diving deep into a DWI related issue. If you really want to sink your teeth into a specific issue that you have, this is where you can do that. It's going to get down into the depths in a way that some of the other materials do not. It just gets into it at a really deep and kind of layered level of helping you understand these DWI specific issues. So I would definitely take a listen on that front. Or get a copy of that if you kind of want that deep dive level of resource manual. That was number 7, was the drunk driving defense book. Number 8 is a online available resource. So this is a free resource, and that is the DWI Trial Notebook. So this is not to be confused with the David Teddy's North Carolina DWI Trial Notebook that we just referenced earlier as number 2. But here in resource number 8, we are talking about the DWI Trial Notebook that has recently been republished, revised by attorney James Davis. We had James's son on the podcast on episode 50 talking to us about checkpoints, but this is his dad's publication, James Davis, at his website, www.davislawfirm.com. If you go to James's attorney profile page, so if you go to his, basically bio page on the website, at the bottom of his bio page is a just ridiculously long list of resources, of publications that he has put out. And there are a bunch related to DWI on there that are incredibly powerful. He's got some great stuff on HGN expert testimony. But he's really been very active in teaching CLE and in kind of putting out these publications that are designed to help other attorneys get better at what they do. So this would be an incredibly powerful place to look, an incredibly good place to reference in terms of advancing your knowledge. Again, this is a free booklet that James has put together. I want to say it's pretty close to 100 pages. So he gets in depth about North Carolina DWI issues, and he organizes very well each kind of topical area of DWI with, again, statutory references and then explanations of the relevant case law to each specific DWI issue. The thing that I really like about the way that James has organized things is that he has organized it in such a fashion that basically you get the cases that are helpful to your position, to the defense position, but also he sheds light on what the state-friendly cases are going to be. And that's incredibly powerful in terms of understanding before you get in the courtroom to argue your specific issue, what the state's position on a specific DWI topic is going to look like. What case law are they going to use to support that position? If you've looked at James Davis's DWI Trial Notebook, it's going to be very helpful in understanding that. So great list of resources on James's page. And as I mentioned a couple of episodes back, on episode 50, when his son was on, James Davis II was on James Davis II's attorney bio page. He also has an incredible list of resources, of booklets that he has done, manuals that he has created on DWI specific issues. So you just have to go to James Davis II's bio page and get that. So between James Davis and James Davis II, you can spend a lot of time getting lost in the rabbit hole of all of the great information that they have put out there for lawyers. Number 9 is another attorney educator that we have in North Carolina, Marcus Hill. Marcus has been a constant reference point for me. His website has been a constant reference point for me since I started practicing, because he really designed so much of his online website to helping attorneys understand better DWI related issues. And he's got a number of great resources on his website that is designed specifically for attorneys. But my favorite of all of them, and the one that I visited the most frequently, is his case list. So if you go to Marcus Hill, MarcusHill, attorney.com, MarcusHill, you'll find this case list. It's probably easier to just Google search Marcus Hill case list, and it will probably pop up as the number one organic search link that comes up for that. But his list of cases is just really kind of an incredible thing. I don't know how much time Marcus has spent in building out his website, but he has spent a tremendous amount of time and energy building out his website for other lawyers to improve their own practice. And he's got a number of North Carolina cases on everything related to DWI, but he's also got some really powerful cases from other jurisdictions that you can use as not controlling authority, but persuasive authority, and just really powerful in terms of the depths that he has gone in terms of kind of compiling this list of cases. So if you want to look at your specific topic, he's got the cases organized by topic as they relate to DWI. So he's got, stuff for reasonable suspicion, checkpoints, probable cause, and the cases are organized under each subject matter category. So take a look at Marcus's website. It has, for me, been a constant source of information in terms of improving my practice. So that is number 9, Marcus Hill's website. And then to finish things off, number 10 is Bill Powers' NC DWI Quick Reference Guide. I got a copy. I think there's a 2019 edition out, but I got a copy of a 2017 edition at a CLE that I attended several years back that Bill was teaching, and he was just giving these out to everybody that came to the seminar. And it's a reference guide that is incredibly helpful for attorneys, because again, it's kind of like the dummy's guide to DWI representation for practitioners, but it just, has all the statutes laid out. It has North Carolina administrative code sections that are relevant to the intox and PBT laid out in that book. Just really, really well designed in terms of how it moves through the material. It's available free, so you can go online and print it free. It's on Bill's website at carolinaattorneys.com. carolinaattorneys.com. So you can go on to Bill's website and get a copy of it. I really love the actual physical copy. So I don't know if you can contact Bill. Bill, hopefully you don't get a bunch of mail all of a sudden, and you're trying to scrounge up some of these booklets that you hopefully have in a storage room somewhere. But I've found that the actual printed book, and I've got mine downstairs, but I found that the actual printed book has been really good to just kind of carry around with me. And again, it's just an easy place to get familiar with DWI statutes, administrative code, so that you can be aware that these things exist when they come up on a specific case. If you're sitting in the courtroom for 10 hours over the course of a 2-week period, you can digest Bill's entire reference guide during that time frame, and you are way advanced now in terms of pushing yourself to a whole new level of DWI understanding. These attorney and Bill's been also, I think, in the last several years, starting to kind of organize. He's always been involved in CLE, but he's definitely continued that and has put on, I think, some of his own CLE programs in the last few years that are DWI specific. So again, just be aware that that's going to be an opportunity probably in the future as well to get DWI specific CLE seminar training. But the resources today, I think, are particularly important for young attorneys. And it doesn't mean that for somebody that's been practicing 5 or 10 or 15 years or 25 years or 3 decades that you shouldn't constantly be learning. We should absolutely be moving our practice to the next level, our understanding of DWI topics to the next level every day. We should constantly be trying to improve the way that we deliver our legal services to our clients. And that happens in a very specific way for those of us that are concentrating in DWI defense by being better DWI advocates, by being better defense attorneys. That can only happen through education. Happens through experience, which is its own form of education, but it also happens through actively being a student, through active education. So it's important to focus on that, but it's particularly important for the new attorney and the young attorney, and that is because education is the great equalizer. It's the great equalizer. You can advance your practice years over the course of months if you just focus on getting better at DWI cases, having a better understanding of DWI subject matter. That happens through education. You have to be focused on the educational piece in order to do that. You can compete with older, more experienced attorneys in a different way by advancing your education, by getting better at this. So if you want to advance your practice, the best way to do that, the easiest way to do that is through education. Now I say easiest because it's free. A lot of this stuff is free. It just requires time. It is expensive in time. You have to be focused and energized and committed to actually spending the time to learn this stuff. But if you can be focused and disciplined and be committed to learning, you can advance your practice in a way that is going to outlast those that are not committed to education. You're going to be able to take your game faster forward than people that are just not spending the time learning. So this is something that you have in your own hands. You have the ability to change it. So those are the top 10 resources for North Carolina DWI lawyers. Obviously, continue listening to this podcast because that's a free and easy way to advance your knowledge of DWI issues, of knowledge of DWI subject matter. We also on our website have an attorney resources page. So we have created a specific part of our website for lawyers. And so if you go to minniclaw.com/lawyers, minniclaw.com/lawyers, we have information on a number of DWI topics. We go through the elements of DWI with case references, statutory language, memorandums, the right to stop. So we talk about checkpoints as well as reasonable suspicion issues, probable cause, horizontal gaze nystagmus, chemical analysis, custodial release, Knoll issues, and Ferguson issues, that type of thing. And then also affirmative defenses. So we have cases that are on point, statutes that are on point. We have links to statutes and the links to the actual full case body from the North Carolina Court of Appeals website or the U.S. Supreme Court website. So use that as a resource as well. If I can do some self-promotion, then I'll point you in that direction. But there is so much information out there, and a lot of it is free. So don't let finances be an excuse. Don't let time be an excuse. Get out there and learn. Look forward to speaking with you next time. Hope you enjoyed today's episode of the podcast. If you did, please share the podcast with another freedom fighter in the criminal defense community, and be sure to leave us a rating on iTunes. See you next time.